Hello and welcome to Draw My Life by Rubio, yours truly. Well, where do I begin? It all started on August 2nd, 1993. And at the time, my mother wanted a daughter and my father wanted a boy. And it turns out that I was a boy. So they got together and they decided to call me Joel. Why do you ask? Well, I was named after my father's childhood best friend, but I'll get to that later. Or maybe not. We'll see. So my father came from a household of 12 siblings, and my father was actually the youngest of the 12. As for my mother, she was born in a household of 5 siblings, and she was the second oldest. Now, when my father and my mother met, and after they got married, of course, they always dreamt of having 5 children. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case. They only had one child, which was me. You see, my mother had 2 miscarriages, and at the early age of 34, found out that she was affected with premature ovarian failure. However, this didn't stop us from having the great family that we have today, which is consisting of my father, my mother, and myself, and we were happy. I lived in California my whole entire life, and I still continue today. I also lived for most of my life in Los Angeles in a tiny apartment, but despite it was tiny, it didn't really matter because it was only the 3 of us, and well, I was the happiest I can be. Now, going to school, this is my first encounter where I never really thought about race and what was happening. This is, I guess you can say, the first key point in my life where racial formation was occurring in front of me, and I didn't even understood why. It's because all throughout my education system, except for college, I grew up in a neighborhood filled with Latino students and never really thought why it was only Latinos. I had white neighbors across the street, but I never saw them go to school. And the biggest question to me when people would talk about race is, what is race? I had no clue what race was, and throughout my childhood or teen years, it never occurred to me how much of an impact would it be in my life. Now, speeding up a little forward from my childhood to my preteens and then to my teenage years. As a kid, for example, I always thought that Asians couldn't drive. It was very stereotypical, but I always assumed that it was real. And I didn't know that I was being racist, and I would just go with it. Now, there comes to the second part of my life, where I reached one of the lowest of the lowest. And I know I'm being repetitive, but this is the point in my life where I was trying to ask for help. Now, it was the beginning of a happy new year, but it wasn't so much happy, you see. This year, I was about to turn 18. I was so excited. Not only was I about to turn 18, but I just finished my college applications and I was ready to move out. I was ready to pack my bags and head off to college, and specifically far away from my parents. However, I soon spoke too soon. On January 13th, 2011, at 4 a.m., my father heard a noise while my mother just kept sleeping. And my father decided to check out what was happening, what's going on. So he walks downstairs to check the door, and he continues to hear a knocking. He wonders, what's this knock? Who's outside? So he decides to ask freely and says, "Oh, who's out there? Who is it?" Now, they respond with being the car insurance. However, this wasn't no car insurance people. In fact, they were the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They were here with a deportation letter to take my father and my mother away from me. 20 minutes have passed and they've just finished taking my father, but I don't know that. It's 4:20 a.m. and I wake up with my mother crying by my bed. And I'm wondering what's going on, why is she crying? All these thoughts are running through my head. As she continues to cry, and as I keep asking her, she finally stops and repeats these words. She says, "Your father is gone." At the moment, I realize that I have no idea what's going on. Everything is rushing in my mind and there's just, I don't know. But then it hits me that the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement came to take my father away and intentionally were trying to take my mother away. They were trying to break up my family apart and they succeeded. They ruined a perfectly good family household where my father had nothing to do with anything bad. He paid taxes, he followed the law, and we just couldn't understand why. It was just because my father was an immigrant. As I look at that deportation form from my mother's and my father's, I realize that this isn't the only deportation that the US has done. And I ask myself, why do we have to suffer? Why are immigrants being constantly being forced out? Why does America claim to be the land of the free, the land of the opportunity, the land that our people fight for and die, but yet they still want us out? They want us to kick us out. I was hoping that soon all my struggles would fade once I would get to college. That I would find this perfect paradise that would just fix everything. I was really hoping to find this place and search for this place. I would do anything to find this place because everything was just going really bad for me. However, this wasn't necessarily true. Once I got accepted to Cal, I immediately rejoiced and accepted the offer. I was ready to begin my healing process, as you might say, of my parents' situation and demonstrate that their child is fine, that I am perfectly capable of finishing college and demonstrating that everything is okay. I actually found something else, in other words, not to fit in and to be locked down upon. I have never experienced such a discomfort of my race, my environment, or have felt out of place. There were hardly any Latinos and Chicanos on campus that I soon felt alone on this pathway towards this so-called journey of college. Now, the comments I received were probably the worst. For instance, I would get, "How did you get in?" Or I would get comments like, "You're just here because of your race or because you're Latino, you're a minority." Despite I had friends in freshman year in college who in fact were of all races, I still felt alone. I felt as if they thought they were better than me. I never really expressed this nor wished to confront them because I knew that their actions were unintentional and were not meant to hurt me. On another topic, the ignorance in this campus that I have seen in many are often not questioned nor debated about the opinions that us underrepresented or deserved have. Too often, have I heard on campus that affirmative action is unfair. Well, you know what? We have opinions too. Luckily, I've actually found my place here at UC Berkeley. It
It's unbelievable, but I've actually found a group of people that I can be around on, that I can trust, that I can just feel like if I'm home. And I want to tell everyone that it doesn't matter what race you are, or what the books say, that because of your biology or because of your skin color defines what race you are. No, in fact it doesn't. It's we as a society define what race are, and ultimately it is up to you to define what race is. It is up to us together to change the world. It sounds cliche, but it's up to me and you, and make race something meaningful. Thus, this comes to my conclusion, and I want to thank you all for watching.